It was just another quiet Thursday afternoon when I heard the knock on the door. Sunlight was pouring through the living room window, and I had just brewed a cup of chamomile tea. When I opened the door, it was my neighbor, Alex. He was smiling the way he always did, easy and warm. Alex had moved in 6 months ago, and in that short time, we had become good friends. We shared recipes, borrowed tools, exchanged weekend hellos, and occasionally walked our dogs together. That day, though, he looked like he had something more on his mind. "Hey, Emma," he said, shifting nervously on his feet. "I was just passing by and thought I'd stop in for a bit. I brought cookies." Cookies in hand, he stepped inside after I gestured him through. I didn't think much of it. It wasn't unusual for Alex to swing by. He was that kind of neighbor, friendly, reliable, and honest. We talked about the weather, laughed about the strange guy from the next block who dressed his cat in sweaters, and shared stories about our childhoods. But then something shifted. As he sat on the couch with his coffee, he looked toward the window and fell silent. His fingers tightened around the cup. I noticed the color drain from his face. Something was off. "Everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then turned toward me with a seriousness I wasn't used to seeing in him. "Emma, I didn't come here just for the cookies." There was a beat of silence. The clock ticked behind us, and I felt my heart quicken. He sighed, leaning forward. "Something happened last night. I saw something outside your house." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He explained that he had been walking his dog past my backyard around midnight when he noticed a strange shadow moving near my window. At first, he thought it was a raccoon, but then he saw a figure, tall, wearing a hoodie, crouched low against the side of my house, peering inside. My throat tightened. I lived alone. I always felt safe in this neighborhood, but the thought of someone watching me at night chilled me. "Did you call the cops?" I asked. "I didn't want to overreact," he admitted. "But I didn't sleep all night. I kept wondering if I should have done more." I stood up and pulled the curtains open slightly. Everything outside looked normal. Too normal. Like nothing ever happened. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I didn't want to scare you. But I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I walked to the door and checked the locks again, even though I already knew they were secure. The idea of someone watching me felt like an invisible weight pressing on my shoulders. Alex stood, placing his mug on the table, and gently said, "Do you want me to stay for a while?" "Just until you feel more comfortable." His offer felt genuine, and at that moment, I was grateful. We sat together, occasionally peeking outside through the blinds. He even helped me set up a temporary security camera using an old phone and motion detection app. We talked more about the figure, about how long it might have been there, whether it was a prank or something more serious. He promised to walk by my house every night when taking his dog out, just to make sure. Later that evening, after Alex left, I couldn't relax. I kept glancing at the camera feed on my phone. Every little creak of the house sounded sinister. I barely slept. The next morning, I found something that turned my stomach. A single muddy footprint near the window. It was large, definitely not mine, and fresh. I stared at it, heart pounding, then immediately called the police. They arrived, took photos, and said they'd increase patrols around the neighborhood, but they had no solid leads. I told them what Alex had seen. They thanked me for the information but didn't seem hopeful. I called Alex and told him about the footprint. He came over right away and helped me scrub it away, all the while staying calm, even though I could see the concern etched into his face. He offered to help me install better locks and even a doorbell camera. I agreed. Days passed without incident. But one evening, something unexpected happened. I was watching a movie when the camera notification pinged my phone. I opened it casually, expecting to see a passing car or a neighbor walking their dog. But what I saw froze me. The same hooded figure. Standing at the edge of my yard. Staring directly at the house. I gasped and dialed 911 immediately. The dispatcher told me officers were en route. I watched the screen, unable to breathe, as the figure moved closer to the window. Then suddenly he bolted, running toward the alley behind the house. Minutes later the police arrived, but the man was already gone. I called Alex. He came over again, this time bringing his dog for good measure. He stayed the night on the couch. Neither of us slept much. I was too shaken. And he just didn't want to leave me alone. The next morning, we sat on the porch steps with coffee. The sun was rising, casting golden light across the dew-covered lawn. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Alex turned to me and said something I didn't expect. "Emma, I haven't told you everything." I looked at him, confused. He exhaled deeply. "I think I know who the guy is." I didn't want to say anything without being sure. But last night, when I saw him on the camera, I recognized his walk, his build. "Emma, I think it's my cousin, Trevor." My eyes widened. "Your cousin? Why would he?" "He's had some issues. Trouble with the law. A bit unstable. I haven't seen him in months, but he knows where I live. I think he's been watching you because of me." I stood up, stunned. I didn't know what to feel: betrayal, fear, confusion. "I'm sorry," Alex said, standing too. "I never wanted to involve you in anything like this. If I'd known he was here." I held up my hand. "We need to go to the police. Right now." He nodded. We drove together to the station and told them everything. They asked for Trevor's information and promised to investigate. That day, Alex stayed by my side, helping me file reports and making sure I felt safe. As hard as it was to process, his honesty mattered. A week later, the police apprehended Trevor 2 towns over. He had been camping out in an abandoned building near the train tracks. They found a notebook in his things, filled with scribbled drawings of me, my house, and notes about my schedule. It was the most horrifying thing I'd ever seen. The officers assured me he would be held for a psychological evaluation. They also assigned extra patrols to my street, and I was offered resources for counseling. I took them. Through it all, Alex never left my side. The day they confirmed Trevor had been taken in safely, Alex came over with dinner. We sat on the back porch, the sky painted with twilight colors, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could exhale. "I still feel guilty," he said, voice quiet. "You shouldn't," I replied. "You helped. You told the truth. And you stayed." He smiled a little. "You're pretty strong, you know. Stronger with good neighbors." He chuckled. "Well, I'll always be right next door. If you ever need cookies, cameras, or company." I looked at him, really looked, and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with tea or the sun. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from something terrifying. Maybe a friendship, born of everyday neighborly kindness, had grown into something much more powerful, a bond that even fear couldn't shake. Because sometimes, the scariest moments reveal the strongest connections. And a simple visit at the door can change everything.